Good afternoon, everybody. It's Christy Schweiger from the Moonstone Museum and Art Gallery. And today we're going to do a couple of live demonstrations on the Easter egg clay at home activities. And I thought we would start by looking at the basic kits that we had available for the public. It included a pre-cut clay piece that looks like an egg. It included Easter themed napkins and tissue paper. It included glitter glue, which I have a big bottle right here. It should be in your kit. Some form of ribbon, beads, and a sponge and a cube. So we're going to get started here so you can see how that is made. Today we're going to learn about Mod Podge and how glue is used to help decorate with our Easter egg project today. Okay, so in front of us, I'm going to put out the material to do the Easter egg project. And we'll start with the egg, the glue, and a few of the tissue paper pieces to create a background. We're going to use a sponge to apply the glue with. And first off, we're going to just completely cover half of our egg. But first we're going to just do little bits at a time. I like to start out from the edge and put a little bit more glue on top. It is a little bit thicker surface that we are putting the glue on. Perfectly okay. We'll add some more pieces and add glue on top of that. Once everything dries, it will stay on there nicely. Right now, it's just kind of movable. And our final coat on top of this will be the glitter glue, which will act as a really good sealant. So either you can use the colored side or the back side. I like using the colored side. And if it goes over the edge, that's fine, because once it dries, again, we will layer tissue paper, which is okay. Smooth it out there. Okay. If you want to layer over top, you can do that easily. And you can always also separate the two pieces of tissue paper if you like. So some of the tissue paper has color, different kinds of variation on it. Fine. You'll notice that it is going on white, but as soon as it dries, it will actually have, it will go on clear. So any kind of tissue paper and napkins work for this project. So that's step one, is putting a finish over top of your egg. Um, just take a couple minutes to do that part. It does get kind of sticky at this point. Moving forward. This is just step one. Okay. So as soon as you're done that part, um, I'm going to just add a little bit of glitter glue here. You have a little container full already, which is good. You just have to add a little bit on top, just to add a little bit, and you don't even really have to. Just very gently, maybe add a little bit of water. Add a little bit of color on top. Tendency of wanting to just squeeze gently. Okay. So I'm going to set that off to the side right now. Let that dry. Notice it's very sticky. It wants to come off on us. I'm going to just set it off to the side now. While we're waiting for that to dry a little bit, we can start on to our second project, which is the advanced project. And we're working with the miniature Easter eggs today. We're doing little models of, we're going to add little clay figurines to go on the inside of it. So we need to start with a clean sponge. And what we're going to do is, I've already done the first step, which is painting the inside of our egg with, again, we have blue glitter glue, kind of acts like sky. So our goal is to take our sponge, dab a little bit in here, and completely go around the inside of our egg. These are plastic eggs, but they certainly look real. And so our goal is to make sure that we go all the way around the inside with our sponge and sponging the inside. So you can see that when you roll this around, majority of the inside is completely covered with the blue glitter, and that kind of creates a background of sky. Okay, so for those of you doing this part, what you want to do is allow that to dry. Mine is dry already for this demonstration. So our next part is what we did on the first part of basic eggs is put decoration on the outside. So again, we're using tissue paper and glue, and we're just going to, this is going to be a little bit more challenging because the egg is actually three-dimensional. We're going to just add a little bit of glue on the one section. Now you'll notice on the inside of this egg, there is a little poke, a little stick in here. You can leave that in if you wish. That would be a really good spot for your figurine once you've got your figurine done to actually attach it to. So I'm just going to, mine's has been removed, but you can definitely use it to stay in there if you like. Now, again, we're going to take our tissue paper and I'm going to take that first off and attach it here. And because it's a three-dimensional surface, it is going to be a little bit tricky to mold on here, but that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to hold it this direction. I'm going to keep adding more tissues on top. Again, let's put a little bit more glue on here. And our goal is to go completely around the surface. I like to go right from the end here. And just a little bit more on top. That just takes a little bit of time to attach it. Your hands will get a little bit of stickiness residue from that. Let's tissue. I'm kind of liking this napkin that I'm using here. And layer on top. It has a tendency of wanting to stick to your fingers. Tissue in there. A little tricky. It's good if the inside is dry. You can actually attach this in here. Okay, so keep going around the outside until you have that completely covered. I'm about 3/4 of the way done here. Don't worry if it looks white, it's definitely going to turn color once you allow it to dry. Just make sure it's smooth in there. Good. Okay, it's better if you don't try to touch it. It'll stick to your fingers. We're just done. And if it overlaps certain areas, that's okay. Have it all completely covered, then not. Last piece. Probably just easily go around with your finger very lightly. You don't want to push too hard because it'll rip your fingers. And with a three-dimensional egg, yes, it is kind of tricky. You want to move it around to make sure you don't miss those spots. There we go. Now, you need to set this egg up very carefully. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit more glitter glue. This is the time to do it while you're trying. If you can very carefully do this without having too much contact, it also protects the outside too. Very gentle with this. This is something you don't have to do, but it is definitely a possibility. The creation of the inside and outside of this egg is totally up to you. You don't have to do everything that I'm doing. I'm just giving you some ideas. Okay, so we're going to need a little bit of time for this to set up. I'm going to move that over and very carefully set my egg on a container or a stand of some sort. So that part is done. Let's have a look. Revisit our egg and see how it's drying. Sometimes you can check this. We need a little bit more time with that because the next step that I want to show you is making the little figurines for the egg. It's a little tricky because you have to be aware of the size of the hole the egg is going to sit on. So for example, you can see on my chart here that I've got a little sketch of a bunny that I'm going to do using my air dry clay. Think of your body shape, your head, your parts like your ears, your tail, facial structure, and extra pieces. So for instance, what you want to be aware of is you want to look at the shape of the egg and you want to make sure that the figurine sits on the inside of that. So very, very importantly, um, think of those kind of items as you're decorating your egg. This is the shape that I'm going to go with. And with my air dry clay, I am going to take it out of the bag. Try to keep it inside of the bag if you're not using it, because otherwise it will dry on you. And I'm going to cut a section out. And roll it into a ball to begin with. That's the easier way to deal with it. So once we do that, I've got a little bit of a stick here that I'm going to cut into sections. So again, body. The body is going to be larger than the head. The head is going to be quite a bit smaller. Now we can always change the size. It's a little bit small. Just take a little bit of pinch of clay off of there. And kind of put the shape there. We're going to roll this out into the size for the ears. Got 2 ears that have to be the same size. That's always a little bit tricky when you're working with this. Now, when you're working with air dry clay, I've found that it's a little tricky. You have to definitely make sure that the parts are attached well. So for instance, if we look at these 2 little pieces here, we're working in really small proximity. So what I like to do is kind of form the inside of the ears by pressing down and rolling. So they're basically the same size here. And then what I'm going to do is if I am completely happy, and if you look at the size of how this is fitting, because this is the actual size of our egg, I'm going to press this down and rotate it and make sure when we're attaching the parts that I take my toothpick and I'm pushing it down so that it's not going to fall off. My first example, I had most of the parts break off because they are very, they weren't attached on there well enough. Okay, so we've got the rabbit head attached to the body. The next pieces that I'm going to add are the little ears. I'm just going to attach them very a little bit here. And then if I'm happy with the placement of them, I'm going to do a better job of attaching them. And from all 4 directions, you need to make sure that they are attaching on there well. So I take my toothpick and I push down where they join and roll it so that they're going to attach. Okay, so those bunny ears should be in good placement. Okay, so after that, we're going to actually build the tail. Now, the things that you attach in behind here, these are things that you don't have to pay too much attention to because they are going to not be seen in your egg diorama. And then you're going to think about the facial structures at the very end. This is the last step of doing it, is adding these facial features at the very end. So what I do is I roll a ball, cut it in half, and then roll them out again. And I slightly flatten them out. And you'll see what happens once I attach them. So I'm putting them into place. If I'm happy with the placement of them, I will actually make sure that they're sticking on there. And nose-wise, you can do whatever you like. I am just taking my toothpick and I'm adding those little details on here. I'm putting where whiskers are going to be. I'm going to add them there. And then I'm going to add the two feet that sit in the front. And again, place them first. If you're happy with them, I think they're a little bit too big, so I'm going to just simply cut them in half, pinch them so that they are how I feel comfortable with them here. So I've got two little round balls here that are going to be for the front. These are the ones that you might see a little bit more in your piece. So what you want to do, and then the back, which aren't going to be as visible, but we still want to add them onto the back. Make sure you look at them together to make sure that they are similar size. And then I just simply add them to the back. So when you think of a rabbit, think that they are a little bit longer than the front paws. Definitely a different dimension to them. There's my rabbit. Okay. So he's going to sit nicely in a vertical position when we look at the rabbit. Now, let me get some other examples for you to see the shapes of rabbit. This rabbit that's completely. We have this little rabbit, which is the other direction. And you can see he's sitting differently than the other rabbits. So this is a vertical one. These are more horizontally. So those are some other examples of how you can actually place your little rabbit. Now, sometimes the pieces will break off because it is more fragile than a regular clay. But what you can do is you can actually glue the pieces on after. And then once they're in the completely protected. So I'm going to just set this little rabbit off to the side here and see how the rest of our demonstration is going here. Okay, so we can probably go back to our basic kits now, open up our glittery materials here. And what we have to pay attention to is where the hole is. That is taking our toothpick here and just kind of poking a hole here. We need a ribbon, and in our kit there is a little ribbon that comes with. You can poke this through, and there are many different ways of things that you can do with the ribbon. I'm just going to do the basic tying at the end here. You can put your string or your bead through here and tie at the end. I'm doing a live feed. I'm doing a live feed right now. Okay, so then what you can do is run a strip of glue across here, and you can use, there's a little bag of glittery things that you can either put in a strip, or you can actually put individual pieces. So if your ribbon is a bit long, just grab a pair of scissors, put that across here. Q-tips are good for just kind of putting small amounts of glue here, whatever you'd like to put. Add different decoration here. Other many different things that I've included here that you can kind of just have fun with it. Okay, so that is our first project. This is the basic kits. The Easter egg cutouts, project 1. And project number 2 is working with the Easter egg dioramas. And once this is dry, this is completely dry, then you can put similar kinds of things on here, putting little glittery things. There's some ribbon that's included here. The one piece of ribbon I just want you to be aware of when you're doing this is to go, and you don't have to, this is just totally up to you. There is the sequence ribbon that I've included that you can put around the outer edge. I would recommend that you do that at the very end because it's really tricky to do. So what I would recommend that you do is you put your pieces on this side first, turn it around, let it dry, and then hold it in this position once everything is dried in place, and then put a bead of glue here. And then you can string your sequence right here. The right side facing up. You may need to use the scissors because I made sure that there's more than not enough. This one has, so what I'm going to do is just kind of trim that off here. And let that dry. Once that's dry, then you can put your little, glue your little figurine on the inside, and we're done. So those are the 2 projects that we have for Easter this year, the basic clay cutout and the Easter egg diorama. Hope you enjoyed working with me today at the Moose Jaw Museum and Art Gallery. Have a great Easter. Thank you.